Awesome, awesome. Well, brother Andrew, appreciate you hopping on with us today. And like we were talking a little bit before, just for everybody who listens, we're going to talk about church planting and just talk about the life of the ministry and just because we have lots of church planters that come to us at Gene Baptist Outreach, just literally asking us about launching churches all the time. Like we have everybody asking us what's the most successful way to launch a church. And being a church planter myself, I have people ask me all the time, what are things you should do, not to do. And we want to talk about that. And your church is a new church plant, and I'm gonna let you give the details about it in a minute. But it's a healthy church plant that's really growing. And like we just discussed, y'all are running around 300 in attendance, correct?
Yes,
And
sir.
your church started what? Didn't you say 7.5 years ago?
Yes, 7.5.
So 7.5 years ago, and your church is running around 300 something people. I don't know about you, but I talk to churches all the time, and that's really good. That's a very strong growth. When y'all started, just real quick, and then I'm gonna let you I'm gonna ask you some questions on how y'all got started and everything. But when y'all did start, did you start with nobody, or did y'all have a crowd when y'all started?
So we started 7.5 years ago. This is my hometown, Somerset, Pennsylvania. So born and raised, and I moved to South Carolina for a couple years to go to Bible college and graduated from Victory Baptist College. And the Lord brought me back up here. So when I moved back up here, I had people. They were like, "If you ever start a church, we'll come." And so there are people I knew over the years, people outside of church. So yeah, that's where we had our core group, and we had 17 people show up in our first service.
Amen. So 17 people showed up on y'all's first service. That's
Yeah,
that's awesome. And now y'all are at 300. I thought you
yeah.
were going to tell me y'all launched with like 100 some people. I was about to say, oh, okay, yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, no, 17 people. I mean, I think our first service we had 40, and
okay,
our
praise the
second
Lord.
our second service we had like five. So because we had a lot of people come from out of town, like family and friends that came to support us, they didn't actually live in the area to be able to drive regularly. So yeah, our first service was 40. Yeah, it's like we're gonna really do something for Jesus. The next service we had five, and I was like so discouraged. I was wanting to go and quit.
uh,
Um, awesome. Well, so the name of your church, New Hope Baptist Church. I'm sure we'll talk about some more details. And you done gave the location, Somerset, Pennsylvania. But give us a little background. So as far as the church plant, just for as a vision perspective, how did the
mhm.
Lord get you to where you're at in Somerset? Did you always know you were going to go back to start a church there, or was there like a process the Lord opened the doors to go?
So I came to know the Lord in 2007 at a little church here in Somerset, and about a year later, the Lord called me to preach. 2008, and then a year after that, the Lord led me to move to South Carolina, and so I moved and I went to Victory Baptist College. There was a wild man down there named Larry Brown, and so anyways, they talked me into it, and the Lord led that I needed to go to college down there. So I went to college down there, and I graduated, and got to see a church that just loved the Lord and loved people, and see the Holy Spirit working, and seeing souls saved all the time, and just the Lord working in the services. The Lord really grew me those 4 years, and just a healthy church. So of course, when I graduated, of course, you're in the north and you're in the south. It's a lot nicer. It's warm, chicken and biscuits and everything. But the Lord dealt with me that I need to move back up to Somerset. I need to move back to the north just because there is such a great need in the Northeast. So it wasn't just I decided I just wanted to move back up. The Lord, burdened me during my time during college that that's where He wanted me to go back to. So that's when 2018, kind of full steam ahead. For a few years, I was, of course, the Lord. I felt the Lord's leading to pastor. Now, whether that was to start a church or take an existing church, I wasn't 100% sure. So there was a couple years where I was preaching and I was filling in, churches that didn't have pastors, and helping the churches that needed somebody just to come fill in. And in 2018 is when finally it came to a place where the Lord, just dealing with me that this is the time. If we're gonna start something, when I was down at Victory in South Carolina, I saw God move there, and I remember going to camp meeting because I would go after I graduated Bible college. I go back down and visit, and I told the Lord, why can't you do something like this here?
Yeah.
And the Lord just convicted me and dealt with me that I needed to go back, and I needed to do something. And so that's where 2018 is when we started. And so in our area, Somerset, Pennsylvania, at one time there was a large independent Baptist church, but it went under. Pastor ran off with the secretary, and so there's a lot of people that are hurt. And so in our area, we're trying to rebuild that trust with people. I'm independent Baptist, and I'll be Baptist born, Baptist born, Baptist bred, and I'll be Baptist dead. But the Lord has dealt with me too about trying to rebuild that trust with folks. I believe the best church to go into in every town is Independent Baptist Church.
Amen.
And so that's how kind of full steam ahead. That yes, we're in an area where there's some hurt that took place, but we're going to try to see some of that people healed, and then we've saw folks that didn't go to church at all that have come to know Christ through the ministry. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that about Victory. Victory has spit out some really, really great preachers, really great ministries. I know several pastors that have really growing healthy churches that came out of Victory Baptist College. So that's a little plug for Victory Baptist College. CT, if you hear this, that's a plug for your ministry. Anyways, but yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Yeah, in Pennsylvania, I do agree. There is a need for up north. When we were in Pennsylvania just not too long ago, actually. I had somebody tell me this. I didn't really know it was true, but they said up north and kind of that northeast, kind of like Delaware area, there's a lot of witchcraft.
Mm.
And I didn't know. Like we had literally had a friend of ours tell us that Delaware is like, especially around Halloween, like it's really Wiccan, and it's like a lot of witchcraft and stuff around there. So, anyways, I didn't know nothing about it. We went up to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, which I don't know how far that is from you, but we went and visited Gettysburg.
Yes, close by.
Okay. Yeah, we just went there about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Went to Gettysburg, and we just walked down the main strip right there, and there was like 3 stores, like literally right there, side by side each other. That one of them was selling like crystals, like spiritual
Mm.
crystals, and one of them had like the pentagram on the window, and they were like, yeah, like witchcraft kind of stores, and we're just kind of like, this is kind of crazy. And then there's like, I think if there's a lot of haunted stuff around there, but so they had like haunted, like, haunted rides or haunted tours and stuff. But anyways, like I felt kind of spooked the whole time I was walking in the downtown area. I'm like, man, I don't see any stores I would even want to go into, like, cause they're all just like kind of, so anyways, we ended up going into like 1 or 2 Civil War stores, but then we just, hit the road. But yeah, no, that's awesome. So you started the church 2018. I know a big question that I get all the time, that we actually have a buddy of ours that's he's planting a church right now, and there's always a big debate when it comes to deputation. So
Mm-hmm.
what did y'all do? Just not that there's a right or wrong way. I know
Mm-hmm.
some guys who go on deputation, some guys who go work a job. I don't think there's a right and wrong way. What did y'all do?
So I didn't raise deputation. So I moved back up to Somerset, and I ended up working as a hospice chaplain. So I had a job Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and they were flexible. If I needed off to do a funeral or if visit. So I had really that full time support, through a job, and it was a ministry job too, where which there's people in our church that I ministered through hospice.
Yeah,
But no, yeah, we didn't go for full time deputation and try and raise support. Lord just provided that way.
yeah,
So
awesome. Yeah, when we started our church, we didn't either. I worked full time, and so you can definitely do it. People can do it,
yeah,
but and I'm not against deputation. Sometimes if that's a good way to do things. I just was curious as far as your background, what you did. Um, awesome, awesome. So let's go back to the actual like church plant, starting the church. You've done been in it for 7 years now. Church has grown to 300 and something people in attendance. Y'all are looking at building a new building, which is really, really awesome stuff. But just at those starting days of starting the church, when it comes to things, like if you can think of 1 or 2 things that y'all did when y'all started, that if you
mhm.
could go back, you wouldn't do, what would those things be?
Uh, if I could go back, of course,
If there is
there's yeah. I would say the one thing is to not do too much at one time. I think sometimes church will start. We're going to do Sunday school, Sunday morning, Sunday night, midweek. I think just kind of keep it simple, do that one service until you get that core group, and, kind of grow from there and do other things. Cause I mean, I think that focus needs to be outreach right at the beginning, trying to, spend that time knocking on doors, putting outdoor hangers, getting out in the community. So I'd say that'd be the one big thing, to not do too much um, right away at the beginning.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I've actually, I've said that same thing to people. Anytime someone says they're going to start a church plant, I'll always tell them that, like, if I could go back, like, I would start, because we started with a Sunday night service and a Sunday school, and I have no idea why we did. Like, we had hardly
Hmm.
anybody coming. Like, there'd be a couple people that would maybe trickle in on Sunday nights. Like, I had no feasible idea why we started with those things, except for it's just tradition. It's just traditional stuff. So we never started with a Wednesday night service, though. We just started with a Sunday night service. Um, and if I could go back, I would do the same thing. If I could go back, I would just have a Sunday morning service until there was like a solid group of people there, and it was, people wanted a Sunday night service that they would commit to or something. And I know some churches don't want to do Sunday night service now. So there's nothing wrong with that. We do a Sunday night service, but we don't do a Wednesday night service. We actually go out door knock
Hmm.
on Wednesday nights, and that's just the way we do it. That's the way the Lord's led us to do it. And so that's what we've done, and we'll do like a Bible, deeper Bible study on Wednesday nights as well sometimes, as far as the door knocking piece, afterwards. But yeah, and so no, I agree. If I was to ever go back, start a church, that would be one of the number one things is, yeah, don't. I know guys that are starting churches and they're like trying to start bus routes, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, dude, you can't do all of it, man. You're just you're one man. Visitors show up, you got to take the kids home right after. You can't even spend time with visitors, get to know them. And so, yeah, don't do too much. That's good advice. So as far as outreach, I know you mentioned that a little bit. We know God gives the increase. But I can't stand it when guys say, "Yeah, God, we're praying Him in. God gives the increase," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's the dumbest thing ever." God does give the increase, but He gave the increase off of Paul sowing and Apollos watering. So there's no doubt outreach is biblical. Whatever method you do, or however many methods you do, outreach is biblical in whatever fashion.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so tell us a little bit about outreach. What did y'all do in those beginning days, and what are y'all doing now? What have y'all done? Let's give some people some ideas that are watching.
For us, especially, just getting started, of course, door hangers, knocking on doors is, a big thing. But one of the things that really has been from the very beginning and even now, is really just people inviting people. I would point back, over the last 7.5 years, that's what's contributed to the biggest amount of growth
Yeah,
is just that word of mouth, people inviting people. So that's something that we try to instill, that we try to remind people all the time. We got, little cards, they're about the size of a business card. Take them with you. Take gospel tracts with you, invite people. Of course, that. So over the last 7.5 years, especially when we got started, we do parades. We do parade floats a couple times through the year. We have a fair booth we do. We try to, if there's festival stuff, we try to get out, have, booths there, giving out Bibles, giving out gospel tracts. Those are kind of the main ones that we've kind of done. Just as work, just we've been able to meet people, but really just, keeping that, uh, I'd say that mindset of outside, the people on the outside that don't know, and keeping
yeah,
that at the forefront. Yeah, there might have been times when we did, maybe some outreaches and we didn't see anybody come from that. But I've seen how God will bless and He'll send someone. I don't know why, but I felt I needed to come here today.
yeah,
God blesses it. Keeping the main thing the main thing.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So as far as like door knocking, is that anything y'all do now, or that y'all have done, or how is that like? Do y'all have a consistent door knocking ministry or anything?
Yeah, we try to do a designated time every week. Of course,
Yeah,
we're kind of place, where we're gonna put people too. So it's
yeah, yeah,
Lord, by faith, you're gonna, provide more seats too.
yeah,
That, and then of course, there is, people visiting all the time through the week. Visiting with people. If it's a Starbucks,
yeah,
just opportunities. I think I think you always ought to be aware of opportunities to outreach, just day to day life,
Yeah,
because God does send those people to you all the time. So, I mean, yes,
for sure.
there's designated time, but also just the opportunities we have to visit people through the week too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
for no, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. No, and word of mouth is definitely the most powerful outreach, there is, but just I'll probably get crucified for this by somebody watching here who's like, the door knocking, whatever they call them. But anyways, yeah, no, I'm not one of those people who feel like you got to feel bad for not going door knocking every week or something. Like there's like several weeks sometimes we won't even go because it just doesn't line up with our schedule. Things just don't work out. So yeah, no, no, I think that's awesome. And I think people need to hear that because some people think you can't build a church unless you're door knocking, 20 hours a week or something. So anyways, that's awesome. So I know this is a question that just popped in my mind. I don't even have this written down to ask you, but I know this is going to come up. Somebody's going to ask, well, Brother Andrew has 300 something people coming. It's because he's in a super big area or something of that nature. So tell us, what size is your area as far as just population wise?
So Somerset is almost 6,000 people. So
Yeah.
our town's not real huge. Somerset County is about 70,000. So no, we don't have a booming area. I mean, if you look kind of ratio, I mean,
Yeah.
some churches where they're at, I mean, really ratio wise, I mean, I guess we'd be considered a mega church,
Yeah.
if you kind of look at the ratio for other areas. But no, we're in a smaller area. But you know what? I mean, my personal opinion, I think sometimes in a smaller area, I think you can see a church grow bigger just because of the word of mouth.
Yeah.
We go to Walmart. I mean, we run into multiple people.
Amen.
And just so I think sometimes maybe in a smaller area, you can probably grow just as quick as in a bigger area, just because of
Yeah.
the word of mouth and people knowing people.
Yeah, awesome. I hope that inspires some people as well, because that's something we get all the time. Like, it's crazy the excuses you hear, of why they can't reach people or why the church can't grow. And we were just talking a little about beforehand, but I believe it's God's will, to grow His
Hmm.
church, to reach sinners with the gospel. And if the church ain't growing, then pray. What is the issue? Is it the church's issue? Is it the culture? Like, what's the issue? I do think that's something to consider. We always tell people, you got to admit you're a sinner. Until you realize that you're wrong, you'll never get things right. And I think it's the same way for church sometimes. Sometimes churches do not want to admit they're doing something
Hmm.
wrong, or they're not. You know what I mean? And sometimes churches aren't growing because they want to admit it to themselves that there's something wrong with the culture of the church or the culture of the leadership or whatever it might be. And that's hard to admit sometimes, but it's just something that if you want to break through some of those barriers spiritually, with your church, I do think there's things to admit. I'm my worst enemy as a pastor. Like, I'm always like, if somebody quits the church, I'm one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, did I do something? Like, was it me? And I like, it's one of those things where we preach the truth. We don't shy away from it. And we understand people come, people go. But I hate seeing people go. Like, I want to see
Hmm.
people get reached. I want to see people grow. And so, like, I've just got this, and sometimes it might be to my fault, but like, I got this natural thing where it's like it's always my fault, what could have been done better. And I think that can be a healthy thing though for a church sometimes to just examine themselves. But that's awesome. I love that you're in a small area. We're in a small area too. Go ahead. Were you about to say something?
Yeah, just kind of, off that, something that I've tried to do from the very beginning is, each week, I try to evaluate things, what can we do better? And I'm not saying, compromise, just, what can you do better? Can we get friendlier? Can we, have a process for our visitors? Just that's something I've tried to do, and I still do all the time. What can we do better as a church? What can we improve? And there's always areas, and so I don't want those to be reasons why we're not growing, but sometimes there are little things that we can change to help us as a church to grow.
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest, like you just mentioned it, the treating visitors. I think one of the biggest unlocks for us that really caused visitor retention, honestly, if I can use that terminology, is when we really did implement a hospitality team that had an actual plan on, greeting visitors and had an organized plan on building relationships with visitors when they come. People need Jesus, but they want friends, and so
Hmm.
how can we get a relationship established as soon as possible? And so we have a lot of new things we implemented even in the past year that has really helped with building relationships and getting people established quicker when they visit the church. Matter of fact, I got a book sitting right here. I was just looking at it, but it's called Simple Church. Have you ever read it by Thom Rainer? Simple Church.
Yeah, yeah, good
Very, I
book.
love it. Great book, and it really helped us with some of the stuff we were doing. Because like not just in our church, but I seen all the holes in our church as well when I read it. But I think a lot of churches need to read it because a lot of churches don't have a process of, okay, when they visit the church, what is the point A to point B? What does a spiritually growing Christian look like in our eyes, and how can we get them there? And it's kind of like the simplest process to get them from point A to point B. And yeah, no, I think the book was fantastic, and it helped us a lot with different ideas and different things. And God has blessed a lot of it. So with that being said, and I know that this is a deep subject, and I'm not going to keep you too long tonight. I ain't give you all night, but I know
You're good.
discipleship and processes for discipleship, visitors entering the door, hospitality, team processes. I know getting into some of the nuts and bolts of that can be very time consuming. But an overview at New Hope Baptist Church, where y'all are
Hmm.
at, give us an overview. What is, when a visitor comes in, what's y'all's goal with it? What's y'all's process to get them from, visiting to a discipleship kind of journey?
Well, of course, we get visitors. We pray for visitors all the time. Lord will send them, and He does. But when someone does come, they are a visitor. Of course, we have folks that are trained to keep an eye on who's new. So of course, whenever they are, somebody is. We have a gift we like to give them. We have a red bag just so it sticks out, so people know that's a visitor. And I've told our church, if you see somebody with a red bag, you better be nice to them.
Amen. That's good.
So, we just got, just like a water bottle, the Dunn book, Carrie Schmidt. So nothing real expensive.
Yeah.
So we get that. And then of course, we push to try to get their information from them. And so when we get that information, of course, there's a check on there. They could check off, a relationship with Jesus, interested to learn more about relationship with Jesus Christ, serving, so those are opportunities too to follow up with visits, scheduling time with them, to get to lead people to the Lord too. Some people don't get saved during the invitation to church. Some people, it might be at the Dunkin' Donuts, or it might be, visiting
Yeah.
them at home.
Let me cut you off real quick. Let's remember where you're at, because I want you to
Mhm.
continue with what you're saying. But I do have a question for you, just in my own mind, just to understand what you do with this. So after a visitor visits, because at our church, I also, that
Mhm.
I've actually implemented what you told me over the phone a long time ago, talking about how you send them a personalized text from your phone, like you'll text
Mhm.
them that are personalized with like the. Because we would do a text message, it would just be kind of a generic thing though. But like I like that, you would manually text them and add their kids' names and different things in the text message and stuff. And so I've started doing that, and I think it's had a great response since I've started. And you mentioned that you did that. So, anyways, as far as in your mind, what do you do? What is your goal with a visitor when they fill out the visitor card? Like, do you visit them in person? Do you ask them if you can visit in person, or do you ask them out for coffee, or do you not do any of that and you just shoot them a text and that's it? What's your mindset there?
So we do send a text message to them. That's of course, you can ask questions to kind of get a response. See, sometimes there's people just shopping around. I mean, you're gonna have that. But you can really from there you can take they might, well, I'm looking for a church, so you can carry that conversation longer with them. So we text message. I send a handwritten thank you card in the mail to them. But from that, I mean, each person's a little bit different. And, of course, I said that there's some they'll check off, about a relationship with Christ. So those are people, we want to try to see them get saved. So if they do get saved, we get to them where we're gonna try to help them on what their next steps are. Of course, you get saved, you need to get baptized. You've been baptized, we need you to go through
Yeah,
discipleship. So that's where we try to, help them along. Now we understand sometimes people don't take those steps, but at least we want to try to provide them with what their steps are. And so that's where you know we do we invite people over to our house for pizza after church, just ways to try to connect with people. I mean, we got three girls right now, so things are a little bit crazy. So sometimes going to restaurants just too much. So just coming
yeah,
to our house, and the kids can just play, and we can talk, and opportunities to get to lead people who are there. So we invite people over to our house. We do that. Of course, meet up with people for coffee. So you know, yes, there's people sometimes they'll be open to meet, but sometimes you'll have people that won't. But all you can do is try.
Yeah.
And there's going to be something that you do, whether it's a card in the mail or something, some type of follow up process that is in
Yeah.
place. So, and you
Well,
know what, when you're smaller, I mean, 25, 50 people, I think you can write some handwritten cards each week.
yeah, yeah. Well, and you're sitting here, we're talking about this, and you'll be amazed at the churches that don't do anything after visitor visits. Like they don't send a text message, they don't send out anything in the mail, like they don't do anything at all. They just hope they come back. And so now, don't get me wrong, praise God, that when they do come back. But yeah, I mean, I think that just those little text messages are more powerful than you realize. Yeah, what we kind of do is kind of like I started doing the text message piece that you're doing. I stopped visiting people if they visit the church. Like I won't go visit them because I found when I go visit people, and this is just for anybody watching, at
Mhm,
least from my experience, like when I go visit, it might have worked back in the day, but when I
mhm,
when I go visit somebody that just visited the church, like if I go visit them that Monday or Tuesday after they visited for the first time, at least in my experience in our area, they don't ever come back. The people I
mhm,
don't visit though, they're more apt to come back for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because they are embarrassed about their house or now they think I'm a crazy preacher knocking on their door every just because they first visited the church. I don't know what it is. But that was like a trend I started seeing. If I'd visit them, they just wouldn't come back. The ones I didn't visit would come back, and I was like, you know what? I'm not visiting anybody anymore. And it kind of worked out better that when I didn't visit the visitors, that week trying to go visit them or something in person. That's my pastor that I was trained under. He would do that, and that's
mhm.
where I started doing it. And I was like, well, I feel like I don't have a great experience with that, so I kind of
Yeah.
stopped. But yeah, kind of follow the lines of what you were saying, just for just give people ideas. Something that we do that works really well, and I have several people in our church. We talked about it at a business meeting one time. We said, hey, our goal is to build a relationship with people, as quick as possible. And one of the best ways to do that is to try and get them, in one-on-one settings. And so we talked to a lot of the people in our church that we thought were more faithful. Obviously you don't want everybody doing this, but people who have a good spiritual mindset and that are grounded. And we told them that the church would pay for their lunch and the visitors'
Mhm,
lunch if they would invite them out to eat. So a first-time visitor or a second-time visitor or a third-time visitor, our church members have liberty to invite them out to eat, pay for their lunch, and then bring the church a receipt, and the church would reimburse for both of their lunches. And the whole goal with that is just to encourage people to, hey, just get that relationship established, build that relationship. You get a free meal, take them out to eat, and so it's kind of like our churches love that, and a lot of our young adults in their 20s and 30s have taken that and run with it. So like we had a visiting couple that's been visiting for like 3 weeks now. Me and my wife's been out of town a little bit, so I've been missing some Sundays the past month. So last Sunday we were here, and a visiting couple, they're like in their 20s, 23, and I think the husband's 25 or something. They have a little baby. Been visiting the church a couple weeks. I invited them out to eat. I texted them and thanked them for coming to church, and told them I apologize I wasn't, there, or I've been missing so much. And they were like, "Oh, it's fine." I was like, "Yeah, we'd love to take you out to eat this Sunday." And they text back and said, "Well, we've had several people already invite us out to eat, and we'll see how it goes, who we go with."
ah,
But and I was like, I love that. I was like, that's awesome. And so we ended up going as a group. So like me and a couple other families in our church all went out to eat with the visiting family. And we all had a great time, fellowship and just talking. And so and that family told us, they're like, yeah, well, we'll see y'all Sunday. So it's just really been a community builder for our church. Just that one little piece of, hey, encouraging them to invite folks out to eat. Now, obviously, you want to be careful with that. There's some
mhm,
people you don't want them to invite the family out to eat.
right.
They'll probably never come back. So you really want to keep that in among a loop of people that you can really trust with it. But anyways, that's kind of what we do. So to go back to what you were saying, sorry I interrupted you there, but
No, no, you're good.
get the visitor card, some of that information, and then what's kind of from there discipleship wise.
So, so something we've done from the very beginning. Of course, someone gets saved. Push them to get baptized. In which we do. I mean, because I consider smaller, but we do baptisms once a quarter. So we provide that opportunity for, and so we've been seeing a dozen, about every quarter for baptisms. Now of course, if they do get saved, we do want to try to push them to go through discipleship. Now, we've done a good bit of one-on-one discipleship, but with the amount of growth that we've had over the last couple years, we've had to start doing more group setting. And so we have, like, on our Thursday nights, that's our midweek. We offer discipleship class, and so it could be a dozen people. And so they'll go through. We use to continue. Everybody uses something different for discipleship.
We use
But
that too.
we so that's what we provide for folks. It's just with the growth, we were trying to prayed about what's sustainable with the growth, and that's where we had to do kind of the group setting, which I think it's been good too because it gets people connected also. So um,
Perfect.
and of course, from that, discipleship, there is, we give people a spiritual gift test, and so we have one that we use. We tried to do the online one, it just didn't work for us. So we have a paper one that we give to folks, and then, from there we try to plug them into ministry where they can serve, and use their gifts and talents for the Lord.
Yeah, awesome. I'd like to get that from you, that spiritual gifts test, see kind of what y'all's looks like. We've never
Yeah,
done it. We've never done the online one or anything. I've heard
yeah.
people talk about them. We've just never tried them. We do the continued discipleship course too. We use the same curriculum. And as far as just after the continue, there's not really, apart from church services, there ain't no other kind of like organized actual discipleship after that.
No, so we don't have anything organized. Of course, we want them to serve. We think that's a
Yeah.
big part of discipleship. But we do have like men's group and ladies group that meet, once a month. So we try to, push our guys and girls to get in there, get to, know the guys and girls of church more,
Yeah.
get connected with them.
Awesome. Yeah, we do the continue, and we were doing it in a one-on-one setting too. But and same aspect. We was having a lot of people coming that wanted to be a part of it, but we didn't have enough people that were trained to teach people through it. So
Mhm.
so we had to do it in a group setting this past time. We did it as well, but I think a couple people in that group are qualified. Now that they've been through it, that are more capable of taking other people through it. So I do like the one-on-one setting better with the continue. I think it's more
Mhm.
personal, more, but yeah, we've had to do it in a group setting a couple times now as well. And I think the group setting works well. The only thing that aggravates me about it, just transparency for us, is if one person miss, then you got to find out if they make it up. Now we have like an 80%, if you complete 80% of it, we'll give you a certificate, acknowledge you in the church and everything. And we'll take them out for dinner. If they all graduate, whoever graduates, like I got a dinner this Saturday with all of our discipleship. I think it was like 8 of them that went through the group this past time. So like we're church is paying them all for dinner, and we're taking them out to eat, and just celebrating with them. But yeah, so that kind of that feeling of the group setting, I like it. I just do hate that one aspect that if people miss and they want to make it up, it's like, oh, now you got to find a time to make up that class with them and that class with them, and y'all might have a better process that y'all do, y'all's. And if y'all do, let me know. But we still haven't found out what is the best way to make it up with everybody, just individually. It's one of those things where that's the one headache of doing it in a group setting, I feel like. But because you don't want people to miss any of them, you want them to get the curriculum, So it's not like at least in our minds, it's kind of like, well, if they miss 3 classes, we can make it up with them, or we could just say, oh, you're fine, you finished 80% of it. But it's kind of like, but man, we don't want them to miss that material. And so we'll try and encourage them to find a time to make it up. And our discipleship leader, the guy who's kind of over our discipleship, he's really good about finding times to make it up with them one-on-one and different things. And so he's been really good at that. But as we grow, the same aspect as you, I mean, I could imagine if you had 20, 30 some people, going through a group at once, like to make it up with 10 of them that's gone this day or that, I feel like it would get a little crazy. But anyways, if y'all got a process for that, let me know. Something curious about while you was talking, do y'all do like a new members class, like a 2-week kind of new members class, how Victory and some of those other churches do?
Yeah. So we started, I'd say probably about 4 years ago. We just call it Next Steps class, but so we offer that class once a quarter. Um, just with our size, once a quarter is about a good range. It gives some time to recruit people. But yeah, so in that class, we do kind of go over the history of the church, how we got here, what our vision is, what we believe, just so when they join, they know what they're joining.
Yeah.
And then you can find a little bit more about them. If there's someone that maybe has hopped around a lot, or
Yeah.
get a little bit more. But we do a new members class, and it's been great. I mean, we've got opportunities to lead people to the Lord through that too.
Perfect.
People come to the class.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Do y'all use a booklet? Do y'all have a booklet made or something for y'all's church?
Yeah, we have a booklet that we use. Someone, they said we could put our logos on and change stuff out, so that's what we did.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Was
yeah,
that Victories? Was you?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
I think we got that at the leadership conference too.
yeah,
Did they like I didn't know you could take the logo off and replace it though. That's
yeah. They
awesome.
said you could. Yeah, so
I've been sitting here in my mind. We haven't started one yet, but I literally was just messaging somebody like a week ago to design us one, and I just have to get the curriculum together. But man, I didn't know. Like I think we still have that material
oh
somewhere
yeah,
somewhere in our email. If we can just like get it
oh
already,
yeah.
yeah, that'd be
It's
beautiful.
2025. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I might have some questions about that. I might get back with you on some questions on that. Yeah, I've been wanting to do one of those new members kind of classes. As of right now, we just still do the old fashioned thing. Hey, so and so wants to join the church. You know, all in. I say I. If you don't want them to, then don't say anything. So it's kind of like. But yeah. So we still kind of been doing it just halfway there. But anyways, so yeah, that's cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's some good material. This video might just be for me. This might just be for my learning. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Okay, well we'll kind of start wrap. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that discipleship piece, or we good?
No, no. I
Awesome.
tell you the one thing I was going to say when you were kind of talking about with follow up with people. I heard a statistic. It was probably about maybe a year or so ago, because COVID changed a lot of things. But COVID, you couldn't really visit people, but a lot of people, text people and phone,
Yeah.
called people. So really, COVID kind of changed a lot of that when it comes to visits. I'm not saying people don't need, but there's times you do. But honestly, with a lot of people, just a text message is sufficient, and
Yeah.
even a phone call. COVID really changed a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, since we've been doing that personalized text, since I've been doing that, it's been like all of our visitors. It's been a great result of people texting back, giving you their honest opinion of the church, and whether they like it or not. It's been really, really good. So yeah, I agree. Anything goes a long way. Few other just short little questions, real quick before we end. As far as if there's any advice for like you know pitfalls or anything in a church that you maybe have done, or any bad decisions you made, or anything that you could go back and change. Is there any of that you can think of just within the church?
Uh, I know when you start a church, the thing about it is you get people come from all different places. So I think just when you got people coming, do follow up, and keep eyes on people. Sometimes you get
Yeah,
people, they've hopped around a lot. When you first getting started, you want bodies there. You're just like, man, I don't
yeah,
want anybody, but sometimes you can get yourself into trouble just because you need people where you just take everybody, and that can cause you some problems later on. Just putting people in, maybe they've hopped around a lot.
yeah,
Steeple chasers, and that could get you into trouble. So I think sometimes just you know pray for, ask the Lord the people that He wants there.
yeah,
As much as you want people there, I mean, you want people there, but sometimes it can be other people's problems coming in. And usually, how people come is how they end up leaving.
yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. No, that's
yeah.
good. That's good advice. Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So as far as starting a church, did y'all do a big launch, or was it
No, just regular Sunday morning, and
just
just kept at her.
knocked on some doors
Yeah.
leading up to it? It was like, hey, we're about to start a church. That's kind of how we did it too. Yeah, I talked to guys today, and they're like, yeah, how do you do did y'all do a big launch, or how do you do a big launch? I'm like, honestly, and we've done big launches for churches now, but as far as like our own process, I was like, I didn't know you could do a big launch. I just, we just put a sign on the building and say, hey, we're having church in September, and it's like October. We're not October, but it's like the month before. Like I think we literally started announcing it like a month before we started the church. We started announcing it. So yeah, we didn't do anything big. It was just, so I mean, hey, if you want to plan and have a big launch, that's good. All right. Well, we'll kind of end it. I know we've been talking about a lot. I think we gave a lot of good information though for people to think about as far as things they can do and implement actual action step things. But I mean, any like advice on your mind to just a new church planner or someone who is pastoring, who's been pastoring for 10, 20 years and they still ain't seeing, much growth or maybe much traction, or maybe they just feel kind of stuck, But as far as just on your mind, I will kind of end it with just, Brother Andrew's final words. What's some advice from you?
Um, I think yeah, it's really elementary, but be faithful. Where God's called you. If God's called you there, there's seasons when we saw growth and seasons we saw decline. But ultimately, if God's called you there, be faithful. Thing I've had to remind myself, we live in Somerset County, so I mean, we could have a blizzard next week for all we know.
Yeah,
That sometimes there's not as many people there, but ultimately, if God's called you to preach His word, you need to be faithful preaching His word, and those people that are there, they need to hear it.
yeah,
So I think just a reminder, just to stay faithful. We find our identity, unfortunately, in how many people, or how big of a building, or how
yeah,
many acres we own, but our identity is being Jesus.
yeah,
He's called me. he
yeah.
he's he's
Amen.
he's the one that defines me, not if how many people I have, or this or that. And if we find our identity in that, I think we get in a dangerous place. But ultimately, my identity is in Jesus, and I'm going to be
Yeah,
faithful to Him. So.
amen. Amen. Yeah, I heard a preacher say, and I'll mention this, but you was just mentioning that, so it made me think about it. That he was talking about how preachers oftentimes walk by sight,
Mm,
and he's like the reason I can tell you that preachers walk by sight. He said is because if you ever preach a message and you don't see anybody come to the altar, you feel like you failed in the message, like you feel like it was a bad message because you didn't see anything. You didn't see anybody come down and come to the altar and stuff. He said, but that's not faith. Faith is just trusting that God's doing something eternal if you're, praying and preaching the word. And he's like, yeah, he's like, oftentimes we operate by faith or by sight way too much as preachers, and it kind of goes with what you're saying. Sometimes we live by sight, and so anyways, that's good stuff, man. Well, I've enjoyed it, brother. I appreciate
yeah.
it. And, if anybody wants to ever look up Brother Andrew Broucher's church, they're a New Hope Baptist Church, Somerset, Pennsylvania. I encourage you, follow them on Facebook, follow them online, watch the stuff they're doing, and get some ideas. And at the end of the day, God must give the increase. So obviously, you have to pray. I don't think
Mm,
an operation or a system's going to change anything
hmm.
without the Holy Ghost. So we need the power of God.
Amen.
So, but definitely, watch ministries that are growing, see stuff they're doing, and implement it. Man, I'm like a child. I'm like a child when it comes to seeing people doing like great things, and the churches are growing. I'm like looking around, like what, what could we apply that God could use at our church, And so I think that's a good mentality to have, And so, anyways, well, brother Andrew, I appreciate you hopping on. I know it's late. I hope you have a good rest of your night, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the material. And I'm going to be reaching out to you about that spiritual gifts thing and
Yeah.
the booklet and everything.
Yeah. Definitely. No, hey, thank you so much for having me on. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, have a blessed rest of your night.
All right. You too, buddy.
All right. Bye bye.